All right, welcome to week one for the 2021 NFL season here at the MKD DFS YouTube channel. My name is Brandon. I will be posting videos every week for the rest of the season, talking about good DFS picks, nice value plays, and also the games I'm going to be targeting here on my lineups. So first, we're going to go ahead and start with the 5 QBs that I will be targeting in most of my lineups, trying to get exposure to those certain QBs, ones that are going to put up a good ceiling, a high-end ceiling that can really break a slate, and also ones that are going to have a decent floor as well in case they can't get you those 3 to 4 touchdowns that you're looking for, just so they can put you some good points in your lineups. So first, we're going to obviously talk about the man himself, Patrick Mahomes. We can see that his, game logs, you're going to constantly get a high, a decent floor regardless. Even against tough, at the last game you see here against Tampa Bay, didn't really put up too much. I believe he was injured partway through the season here, so you were getting some weeks where he wasn't really playing. However, he's going to put up good points. 35 is the ceiling for him, 39.64 against the Jets, obviously a terrible team. But you really want to get him week one before his salary goes exponentially through the roof. You can stack him up with a Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Even you just kind of want exposure in general to this game, just because the implied total is going to be one of the highest on the slate here during this week one. It's against Cleveland. They're not the best. The defense isn't the best. It's a good defense. It's not going to be able to stop the run. It's not going to be able to stop this high-flying offense. So Patrick Mahomes is one I'm going to be targeting. One of the games I'm going to be targeting is the Arizona-Tennessee game. So Kyler Murray is obviously a good stack here for anything. You can stack him up with D-Hop. He's also got a rushing upside that you're going to be able to put at least a decent floor in. High-end points here like 38.14, 41.92. He's going to be able to get you some touchdowns with his feet, which are going to be adding some decent points to the board for him. However, I am going to be fading Kyler Murray just because he is going to be the obvious QB to run, and I play a lot of large field GPPs, so I'm not really going to be targeting him. I'm going to try to find better picks at QB. Another one is Josh Allen. Obviously he's finished QB1 last season. He's going to be able to put up points with his legs as well. Maybe not as much as Kyler Murray per se, but if he runs it in for a touchdown and is able to throw to his best man Diggs, he's going to be able to put up some monster points. And this Pittsburgh-Buffalo game is not going to be one where he's going to have to lack. Last season, he put up 19.32, and Pittsburgh has lost some of its key players on the defense and picked up some other ones as well. However, you can expect Josh Allen to sling the ball pretty well, especially to Diggs. If Emmanuel Sanders plays, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, things like that. So another one we're going to go here is Russell Wilson. He's actually one I'm targeting because of his ability to hopefully sling the ball. Let Russ cook was a thing last year. We're hoping that his coach is going to be able to, Pete Carroll is going to be able to let him throw it like he should, because we see that when he does sling the ball, he's able to put up a decent ceiling here, 34, 34, 39.8, almost hit that 40 mark, 35.92, even to 28s, 25s are still really good, especially for his price at 7,000. He's going to be able. He's a high-end QB. He's decently expensive. But if he's able to hit his targets and DK Metcalf, who's able to run it, he's probably the fastest next to Tyreek Hill that you're going to be able to find. He was able to chase down a defender from half the field. So that he's going to be able to make some breakaways. Tyler Lockett as well. So you've got some pretty decent wide receivers that Russell Wilson's going to be able to throw it to hopefully get you those points at his price tag. Unfortunately, Deshaun Watson's out. Another one I'm going to be targeting is obviously Jalen Hurts. He's got the rushing upside as well. He's also a cheaper pick. So we saw last season, even with his small sample size, that he was able to put up some decent points against Arizona, 40.82, which is a crazy game. But even the 24s and 23s, I mean, obviously before here, you're not getting much because he wasn't playing. But after Carson Wentz was taken off and Jalen Hurts was put on, we can see that he's able to work. I mean, and especially against this game, which is supposed to be a shootout against Atlanta. They're at home in the Dome. We can see what Jalen Hurts can do. He's got the rushing upside. They're going to be able to move the ball down the field. And if they get into that 5-yard mark, if Jalen Hurts can run it in for a touchdown, he's going to be able to get you those points. And at 6,400, he's going to be played. But, I mean, he could be a game-breaking quarterback. So another one I'm looking at here is going to be Carson Wentz. So on the opposite end of the Seattle-Indianapolis game, Carson Wentz is a reigning MVP for his Super Bowl season. He was able to put up 31.76 against, I'm not sure who this was last year just because he changed. However, he's able to put up these numbers, and against Seattle, which has an abysmal pass defense, we see that he's going to be able to, they rank 30th in passing defense. So, and with his old team, Frank Reich, his old coach, he's going to be able to throw the ball. He's going to be able to show his MVP status. You can put any wide receiver against with him. We have T.Y. Hilton is out, obviously, so Michael Pittman is going to look good. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, Zach Pascal, anything like that. You don't really want to put Jonathan Taylor in with this game just because Seattle has a decent run defense, but again, Seattle has an abysmal pass defense. So if you want to put Carson Wentz in, again, within any receivers in a stack, that's totally fine. And the last one I'm going to be looking at here is actually going to be Teddy Bridgewater. I know it sounds weird, but again, another rushing upside QB. He's going to be able to put some points on the board with his feet. I believe here he rushed twice for 19 yards and a touchdown, so he was able to put up that 31, plus he's also got a decent arm. And against KC, that was a shootout, but the Giants aren't really that great of a defense. You know, they have some decent players on there, some decent corners, but Teddy Bridgewater showed what he could do in Carolina and showed what he could do in New Orleans. And we see that he's going to be able to connect with hopefully like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, any of those guys. And he's going to, if he gets inside the 5, if he can make a breakaway for a touchdown, then, obviously he's going to be a decent pick. And at, 4,800, it's super value. That way you're going to be able to pay up for your expensive running backs, wide receivers, things like that. So those are the QBs I'm targeting in a lot of my lineups. I'm obviously going to have some random flyers. Jameis Winston you can put in. Tyrod Taylor, maybe. I mean, it's an abysmal offense. Tua, I wouldn't put in. Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic, dude. I rave about him all the time. You could put him in with like a Terry McLaurin, run it back with maybe a Keenan Allen, or even if Austin Eckler doesn't play, you can put in maybe I can't think of the running back that's the depth running back, but you can put in him as a good value. The gentleman that played last year when Eckler was out, you can put him in, as a run back with Fitzpatrick. So, and then a Joey Burrow stack, obviously. I mean, that's going to be a good one as well. You can put in Tyler Boyd with him. I mean, this is clearly a pass-heavy offense. We saw that last year before Joey Burrow got injured. So, any of his Tyler Boyds, T. Higgins, and even Jamar Chase, a lot of those wide receivers were able to put up big numbers and actually were in a decent bit of money-winning stacks for some of these lineups. So he's going to be a good QB to target. He might be heavily owned just because of his price tag. But, I mean, if you can catch him, with a cheap stack and then be able to pay up, it's going to be really good. You can obviously run it back with Dalvin Cook on the opposite end because we know what Cook could do. And another honorable mention is Matt Ryan here at home in the Dome. It's a favorite thing to say. We see what Matt Ryan can do. I mean, man, this guy's got an arm. 30.84 against Tampa Bay. 23.36 against Denver, 34 against Minnesota, 28 against Dallas. So we see that against these abysmal pass Ds, that he's able to put up some nice points when they're not running the ball. Obviously, they have Mike Davis, who's going to be like a 3-down back, maybe even a 4-down back, depending. They don't really have anybody else. So Mike Davis is going to take most of the heavy workload, and we saw that he could do that in Carolina. So could he garner some touches and run the clock? Yes, but I expect this game to be mostly a shootout, and we know what Matt Ryan can do. So, but next we're going to go on to the top RBs I'm going to be targeting. Christian McCaffrey is an obvious one. He is the most expensive RB for a reason. We see that even with the small sample size he had last year when he was injured against KC, he came back for one game and then injured again, put up 37.1 points. So he's able to get that touchdown on the ground, and also he is basically a wide receiver one. And it doesn't matter that Sam Darnold is now in Carolina. I'm assuming even with the new coaching staff, the scheme is going to still stay the same. Give McCaffrey the ball, and he'll win you. He'll get a touchdown. He'll get some nice carries. He might even win you a tournament. So he's clearly an obvious one. There are a lot of cheap values in some running back, but mostly the wide receiver position. So you're going to be able to pay up for McCaffrey. This week one, the pricing is very lenient. We see that, McCaffrey is clearly a 10K and above price player, but he is 95. Dalvin Cook is 91. So a lot of these are priced down. And we also have some cheap wide receiver value as well. So you're going to be able to pay up for McCaffrey and these other big guys. Another one is Dalvin Cook. Clearly, last year he was able to put up monstrous numbers. He is also like another wide receiver one out the backfield. So if he's able to give you that 51.6, 42.2 mark, that's just his ceiling, but even his floor, he had some rough games. These are some rough defenses, but 17.1 still isn't terrible. But if he's able to give you that 29, almost 30 points, he's able to, then, it's going to be worth it for sure. Another one I'm looking at, probably not Derrick Henry. I know this game is going to be high scoring, but I expect it to be more of a shootout. I believe the lines are close, probably under 3, or the spread is about 3. So Derrick Henry, he could get you some, he could vulture like a touchdown if, A.J. Brown catches a long one but gets stopped short of the goal line. Derrick Henry could get that rush in, but, he's not really a pass-catching back, and I want to be able to target those this week before everything else gets priced up the next time. So I really want to target, with Arizona and Tennessee, most of the wide receivers because there's a lot of value there. And I expect Tannehill to be able to sling the ball, Kyler Murray to be able to sling the ball as well. So I'm going to really skip Derrick Henry this week, but he's clearly a great running back. Alvin Kamara is another one I'm targeting right now. With Michael Thomas gone, we saw that he had crazy volume. He was there, or he wasn't there much in the beginning as well. We saw what he did against Green Bay last time, 47.7 points. If he can do that again against, a kind of stinky rushing defense with Green Bay, he's going to be able to put up some nice numbers. So hopefully he can do that again. And at 8,600, he is decently less than McCaffrey. It's crazy to put him under Derrick Henry as well, considering what he did on Thanksgiving. However, he is against Green Bay. This is going to be hopefully a close game. So we'll see what Alvin Kamara can do. You also have Marquez Callaway you can put in at wide receiver. But I'm really going to be targeting Kamara here because even with the changing QB with Jameis Winston, I don't expect Kamara to not get as many touches as he did before. And also Latavius Murray is gone and is now with the Ravens. So there's not really anyone who can vulture those touchdowns from Kamara like Murray did. So I'm definitely going to be targeting him. Another one I'm going to be looking at is James Robinson. Obviously, last year he was an undrafted rookie, became a stud. clear stud, just putting up monstrous points day in and day out, and even they don't get smart with it. He's 6,400, but we saw what he could do. He is the bell cow back, especially with Etienne hurt and on the IR. So their draft pick that they took is not going to be able to play, and there's not really much out the backfield, that is going to be able to take away any of these touches from James Robinson. Obviously, could Urban Meyer let Trevor Lawrence cook the ball and just constantly whip it and sling it across the field? Sure, he could. It's his first game, it's his debut for the actual season. Could James Robinson not get as many touches as we think he's going to get? Yes. However, there's no one to take those from him, and if Urban Meyer is smart, considering he came from one of the best college football teams, he's going to be able to understand the scheme, and if he needs to run the ball, give it to James Robinson, and we saw what he could do last season. So another one I'm going to be looking at is Myles Gaskin. Everyone's talking about Myles Gaskin. You either hate him or you love him. I do like him. I don't necessarily love him because I want to see what they do with him now that he's completely healthy. However, it is against New England. They have Mac Jones swinging the ball. Miami's defense is a powerhouse. We saw what they did last season against some decent teams. So against a rookie QB, obviously it's Bill Belichick's team, but they did release Cam Newton, who is a veteran. Mac Jones is pretty good. However, he is a rookie. So, and there's always, the first game frights. And if Miami can stop them and they don't need to do much on offense with Tua and slinging the ball to like Jalen Waddle and Devontae Parker and things like that, Myles Gaskin should be able to get his, insane volume. I mean, 21, 18, 18, 16, 10, 22. If he can get that type of volume at 6,000 against, a decent defense, but I expect them more to stop, the wide receivers with the decent CBs that they have. I don't expect the run defense to be that stout. And Miami's got a decent offensive line as well. So, but on the opposite end of that, one I am looking at. Oh, sorry about that. Not Najee Harris. Where is he? Damian Harris. There we go. It's another Harris. So Damian Harris is going to be good. They traded Sony Michel. They traded Rex Burkhead. There is no one besides like James White to take the pass catching back from Damian Harris. So, could James White see some of the possible touches for Damian Harris or see some of the possible receptions out the backfield? Sure. And yeah, he's not really much of a pass catching back, but we see the volume that he was able to get, and especially with nobody else. They gave Rex Burkhead some good games. They gave Sony Michel some good games as well. He's going to be the dominant back. He's going to get those 16 touches, maybe even more, maybe even 20, because, like I said, Mac Jones is a rookie. Maybe Bill Belichick realizes that he can't let him sling the ball that much, and it's not really moving the sticks down the field. So just pound the rock in with Damian Harris. They have a fantastic O-line. They're going to be able to open some space for him, and if Damian Harris can make a breakaway, he's going to be able to get you those points. At 5,200, I think it's a perfect pickup. If you can sprinkle him across some lines if you want, and possibly get you like a cheap flex pick. So again, something just to help you pay up for those high-end wide receivers and high-end running backs as well. Another one I'm going to be looking at here is Rahima Muster. So I know that they have Trey Sermon in the backfield, but Rahima Muster is still the number one back. It could be a 1A to 1B type thing with them, but I do expect Rahima Muster. We saw what he was able to do last season, even with all like the muddled, Tevin Coleman in the backfield and things like that, like who was able to get the hot hand. It is just Rahima Muster and it is just Trey Sermon right now. And Trey Sermon still needs to be able to prove himself throughout the weeks to see if he's able to get the dominant rushing role. However, I do trust Rahima Muster. He's a stud against probably, again, one of the worst run defenses in the league with Detroit. San Francisco has a fantastic defense. I don't really trust Detroit. with their wide receiver core, and even with Jared Goff at QB. Jared Goff was good because he had a good offense. He had Cooper Kupp and the rest of the guys like Tyler Higbee and Robert Woods. But I don't really trust him at Detroit. Who does he have left now that Kenny Golladay is gone and Marvin Jones is gone as well? So I expect San Francisco to be able to hold the line, and if they just need to pound the rock in with Rahima Muster, then he's going to be a perfect pick at 5,800. And then the last one I'm going to be looking at here is Mike Davis. Mike Davis, again, like I said before, is going to be the team's starting running back and the lead running back. They don't have anybody else. We saw that he could carry a heavy workload in Carolina, and now that he's over to Atlanta, they don't have Devonta Freeman or anybody that they had before. Mike Davis has shown his prowess, even though he's a little older. Can he do anything with that? Who knows? But we know that he's going to get the volume, and that's all that matters. Sometimes I like to pick volume over, like quantity over quality, right? If he can get the 22 touches, those are going to add you points. It doesn't matter whether he's getting 68 yards or 120 yards. If volume's there, it's going to get you points. And at 5,400, I think it's a perfect pick. And you can run it back with any of the Philly team. Like Jalen Reagor, any of those, Devontae Smith, any of those guys that, Jalen Hurts is going to be able to pass the ball to. So Mike Davis could be a good pick if you're trying to stay away from the higher owned wide receivers on the Atlanta side. And then one that I'll throw out here just for my friend Deontay over at Dynamic DFS, Javonte Williams. He's going to be, I think, according to D and some of the research I've done, I think he is going to be a decent fly at a 4K salary. You're going to be able to pay up for Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, any of the big guys, any of the big stacks. I have them in my Patrick Mahomes lineup with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. He's a 4K running back. He's going to be able to share the backfield with Melvin Gordon. And Melvin Gordon's old. We saw that he was being vultured by Philip Lindsay last season. So we can expect new legs, Javonte Williams, to hopefully get some touches. And if he's able to vulture, some goal line work, or if Melvin Gordon is gassed and can't do what he can do, maybe they put in Javonte Williams for the rest of the game. And at 4K, if he gets you 13 and, a touchdown, or, maybe even 10 and 68 yards and a touchdown at 4K, that's a fantastic value right there. And you're going to be able to pay up for everything you need. So it's just a little sneaky play right there. So now we're going to move on to the wide receivers. The ones that I am targeting, like I said, there are a lot of value here. I can't really do top 5. I will. We'll do top 5 of the high end, and then I'll go top 3 of the value, and then I'll do some honorable mentions here in the middle. So obviously Devontae Adams is going to be a good one. I'm not really targeting him this week. We know what he can do. He's probably the best wide receiver in the game right now. We know what he can do with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. So, hopefully he gets that contract he's been looking for. But we can see the stat lines, 37, 36, 47. I had him in a lineup last season, and he won me some money for sure. One I am looking at, though, is Tyreek Hill. I'm hoping that these game stacks with the higher-end ones like Hill, Kelce, Mahomes, they're going to be hopefully lower owned. I don't really know the stat line, but I'm assuming that everyone's going to be going for value picks and paying up a running back because that's a smart play to do for cash. But you're going to want to take these expensive ones that people aren't really paying for if you're going to try and do well in a higher volume GPP with a ton of people playing. So we know what Tyreek Hill can do. It's not he gave 60 against Tampa Bay. Obviously he caught 3 touchdowns, but we know what Mahomes can do as well. And if this is going to be as big of a game as we think, with like a 53 implied total, then Tyreek Hill is going to get his constant touches, and they also don't have Sammy Watkins anymore. So it could go to Metcalf Hardman. It could go to any of the random lower end wide receivers that Kansas City has. But we know the targets are mostly going to go to Kelsey and Hill. So Hill's obviously going to be a good one. Calvin Ridley, like I said, Philadelphia, Atlanta is going to be a high-flying shootout type game at home in a dome. We know what Ridley could do when Julio Jones was out, and now that Julio Jones is gone, we know he's going to be the wide receiver 1 there. Could we see maybe a 2-stack on Ridley? Sure. If you are afraid of the low ADOT that Ridley has, you could pivot to like a Russell Gage because he's going to be the wide receiver 2 out of Atlanta. However, I do trust Ridley. He's a fantastic receiver. If you've seen what he can do, he's got the breakaway speed. He's got the catch potential. He's got the amazing hands that he has. So I do trust him with Matt Ryan. He is his number 1 target. And against Philadelphia, I don't really trust Philadelphia. So if you want to put him in some lineups with the Matt Ryan stack, feel free. Another one I'm looking at here is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. Like I said, Arizona, Tennessee, going to be a high-flying game. It's going to be a shootout. So I expect Kyler Murray to be able to give it to Nuke. Could Nuke be, again, handled with 2 people? Should have, can you pivot to like a Moore or Kirk stack? Sure. If you want to get like some lower owned wide receivers that Murray's going to have to pass the ball to, because someone's going to score. Whether it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins, whether it's going to be Kirk, whether it's going to be Murray with his feet, Chase Edmonds, things like that. But Nuke is Nuke. He always finishes like top 5 wide receiver in the league. Like every season, 34 points, 25, 19, 28, 28. I mean, if you haven't seen the video where he caught a catch in the middle of like 5 defenders, you should, because that's another reason to play this guy. So another one we're going to be looking at here is Stephon Diggs. You can obviously play him with Josh Allen. This man is Josh Allen's favorite target, and we can see that day in and day out. 44.5, 28.7, 32. I mean, he's getting these crazy targets, 13, 14, 10, 11, 11, 11. I mean, he is a heavy target share wide receiver. The rest are going to like Cole Beasley. John Brown was out, so it was like Gabe Davis. But I don't really see them vulturing any targets from Stephon Diggs. We see that even when Stephon Diggs is covered by 2 people, he's able to make that breakaway and get that catch. And we see him almost always in the end zone with it. So he's going to be a fantastic. He is 7,600, so which is relative for how good of a wide receiver he is. So if you wanted to get some more value, you could by going with, like I said, Gabe Davis, Cole Beasley. Emmanuel Sanders is on that team now, but he is questionable. So if he doesn't play, then Gabriel Davis at 3,400 is going to be a fantastic play for him. However, Stephon Diggs is going to be a safe wide receiver to put in. I do love DK Metcalf this week against Indianapolis. I'm assuming Carson Wentz is going to be able to sling the ball, and if they can keep it close, Russell Wilson is going to have to give it to somebody, and I don't really trust Chris Carson on the run game, so I do expect the targets to go to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and if I had to choose between the 2, I'm always going to pick DK Metcalf. I mean, the man runs like a 4.2, a 4.3 or something like that, so if he's able to get the eye from Russell Wilson in that game, we see what he's been able to do before. His ceiling is like 43 right here for last season, and his floor, albeit, I wouldn't really say this is his floor, just because it is him and or Tyler Lockett, so you got to kind of choose between the 2. Tyler Lockett was able to put up like 50 points one game, and then DK Metcalf the next game was able to put up 40. So you got to be able to choose between the 2 with them on this offense. However, I do expect this to be a close game, and if I had to choose between the 2, DK Metcalf is always going to be the one I go to. AJ Brown is going to be an honorable mention. I do love Keenan Allen. However, against Washington, I don't really trust him. He's going to be able to get his 11 targets, 12 targets from Justin Herbert. Can he do anything with it? I'm sure he can. At 69, though, I'd rather, either pay up or pay a little bit, pay down a little bit with some of these values and be able to get those wide receiver 1, RB1 type running backs out the backfield. If you're going to be playing the Pittsburgh-Buffalo game, I am going to mention Deontay Johnson here. We see that his targets are massive. They're trying to really work this guy. 16, 14, 13, 16 again, 15. So we see that they love Deontay Johnson. I mean, even in the even in the preseason, he was able, to get his 3 targets before they had to dip out and let the reserves come in. But when he's playing normal season, we see that even, against Buffalo last season, he was able to get 7 targets. I do expect that this game is going to be a bit closer. Buffalo has a good defense as well as Pittsburgh, but Ben Roethlisberger is going to sling the ball to someone. And, you can either choose Chase Claypool, Juju, or Deontay, but I love Deontay Johnson. I think he's a stud in Pittsburgh, so I do believe that he's going to be able to get his, his high-end target share. So some of the ones down here, we're going to look at Russell Gage. I do have him in some lineups as a good pivot off Calvin Ridley. If you're going to be able to, if you want to get at least some exposure to this game here, Russell Gage is going to be good. He is a wide receiver 2 out the back, or at the wide receiver position. If Calvin Ridley is going to be, taken by their best corners, then Russell Gage is going to be a good pivot off that, and he's going to see targets because Matt Ryan has to throw it to somebody. Brandon Cooks in Houston. I don't trust Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor, I think, is kind of a trash QB, but he's got to throw it to somebody, and Jacksonville does not have the best defense. I do expect them to have to pass it because I believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to. Trevor Lawrence is good, and he's going to be able to throw it to his wide receivers and keep it a close game, or maybe even, Jacksonville gets out to a good start and they start putting some points on the board, and then Tyrod Taylor is going to have to catch up somehow. So Brandon Cooks is going to be that go-to guy for him. Some guys down, Corey Davis. He's going to get most of the target share. I think he is the wide receiver 1 out of New York. So with him and Trey Lance, I'm not really sure. I forget who is the Zach Wilson. My bad. Zach Wilson is the QB out of New York. So Corey Davis is going to be able to get a lot of those target shares. Jamar Chase, in the offseason, he's had some troubles with catching some balls. However, maybe that's just practice, and when he gets in the game, he gets in that zone. And Joey Burrow is his old teammate, so hopefully he's going to be able to trust Jamar Chase and give him the ball, and we can see what he can do. Otherwise, T. Higgins is a good player as well for that one to go to. Devontae Smith, if you want to put him in a Jalen Hurts lineup, you can. He's going to be a good one to play. But some of these ones down here, so I said that we're going to go into the value plays here. So Michael Pitman Jr. with T.Y. Hilton out, he's going to be the number 1 receiver. He didn't have the best season last year, but it is his sophomore season, and we saw what some games he could do, against some crazy end teams, 15, 22, and then that 15 mark against Buffalo as well. But this is against Seattle, who I said has an abysmal pass defense, ranked 30 in the league. So, and they have Carson Wentz under the helm. Like I said, MVP Carson Wentz. So if he can return to that season, he's able to sling the ball, Pittman is going to be the number 1 receiver. You can also put in Pascal as a cheap wide receiver to put in, but I do trust Pittman more, so I'm going to be putting him in a lot of lineups. I do have him in some cash as well. Let's see, Randall Cobb, against any other team, like against a trash wide receiver team, maybe if they play Atlanta this season, I would put in probably Cobb. He is Rodgers' one of his favorite targets, other than Devontae Adams, and Rodgers brought him in for a reason. So if you think he's not going to pass on the ball, I think you're wrong. Jalen Reagor, I do have him in some. I do trust him this season. I'm hoping to see some decent gameplay from him. And at 3,700, I think he's a good value pick, especially with the Hurts stack, if you're going to be targeting the Philadelphia Atlanta game. MVS, we've seen what he can do. Some of his stat lines: 24.5, 20.5, 17, 27, 19. I mean, he's not a heavy target wide receiver. 6, 7, 8, I think was his max that we saw. Yeah, just about 8. But we know that these targets that he is getting are long, right? So 3 targets, 87 yards. So they are long balls, and we know that he has the hands for it. I think he did drop one in the playoffs. So you can hate him or you can love him, but MVS has some high end play potential. So Marvin Jones Jr. is going to be one that people are going to be targeting at his 3,600 price tag here. He's good. I mean, he's really good. We've seen what he can do in Detroit. He's got some decent some decent plays here and some decent points, but he doesn't have Matthew Stafford under the helm anymore. It is Trevor Lawrence, but if he is going to be the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, I do hope to see Trevor Lawrence be able to cook with Urban Meyer as coach. So we'll see if Marvin Jones, can get his high end target share, and against Houston, who's pretty abysmal. It's not out of the realm of possibility to think that he can get something going. Jalen Waddle is going to be another good one. We've seen what he can do in college. If you've watched his tapes, we know that he's going to be able to get some targets from Tua because, like I said, we know what he can do. Jalen Waddle is 3,600. He's going to be able to fit right in with that offense, and if they scheme for him, then it's going to be even better. And at 3,600, you're going to be able to pay up. One I am going to mention, my guy Gabriel Davis here. I loved him last season, and I love him this season as well. Always cheap. Just about under 4K, 35s. And with John Brown gone, he was able to see an exponential amount of targets, and we know that he is as a red zone target as well. Josh Allen likes to throw the ball to him sometimes, and even though he's not getting crazy amount of target shares, again, if Emmanuel Sanders is out, then Gabriel Davis is going to see another uptick when it's not going to just Stephon Diggs or Cole Beasley. And at 3,400, if he can hit you that 21, 12, like in the middle there, then it's going to be a perfect pick for him. I think he finished second in targets last season with the Bills. So if he's able to continue doing that this season, I don't see why he's not that great of a play. Marquez Callaway, obviously, Michael Thomas isn't gone. Callaway is going to be the number 1 receiver with Traquan Smith also out as well. So there's not really much left on that depth. Callaway is going to be the number 1. I am going to go with Alvin Kamara more because I do trust him more. And if, Jameis Winston obviously has the arm for it, we saw what he can do at Tampa Bay. But with that offense, if they have to scheme for Kamara more and just dump off passes like Drew Brees was doing, then I'm going to choose AK over Callaway. But at 3,400, he's kind of hard to pass up. Somebody else down here that I'm looking at. Elijah Moore. He's going to have a prominent role with Jamison Crowder out. So he's at 3K. I don't see why he's not that good of a pick, as well as Rondale Moore over on Arizona. He's got the target share. It's going to be a high game, or a high total game. So I expect that Rondale Moore is going to be able to get some targets as well. So now that we have a lot of those flex value picks, we're going to go over to the tight end just to finish it off. Defenses I really don't like to touch on. I mean, you can hit up, the 2,900, I believe, is the Dolphins. 23 is the Colts. 2,000, I usually go for the cheapest with the Bengals. I mean, defenses aren't going to win you slates. Sometimes they can, but I'd rather pay up for these high end players rather than an expensive defense. Travis Kelce, I am going to be targeting because I'm hoping he's going to be low owned at 8,300. There are a lot more value tight end picks, but at 8,300, I think with all the value at wide receiver and some of the value at QB and running back, I do think you can possibly get to Kelce. He is a wide receiver, basically. He's not the tight end that everyone thinks that he is. 15 targets, 10 targets, 13, 10. He's going to be able to take a lot of those targets from Patrick Mahomes and clearly get you some touchdowns as well. That's why he's so expensive. Another one I'm looking at here is Dallas Goedert. Yeah, he did overtake the spot from Zach Ertz when he was on the IR, and even with Ertz back, I believe Dallas Goedert is still the tight end one. They like to do a lot of the two tight ends schemes on the offense, but I'm hoping that Jalen Hurts can realize that Goedert is his number one target, and at 4,800, it's not that hard to get to. He's going to get the volume. Can he get the touchdowns? Who knows? But if he's able to at least get some of the stat lines like 20.5, 18.7, all he needs is the 5 targets and a touchdown, and he's got you the points for it. So another one I'm looking at is obviously Logan Thomas. This man had a huge contract during training camp, and also is going to be able to take a lot of the targets that Terry McLaurin isn't getting. But I don't see why Logan Thomas is a bad option at 4,600. He's going to get you those 9, 12, 16, and like I said, Fitzmagic is at the helm, and he likes to sling the ball. So Kyle Pitts is another one I'm looking at. He is the best out of the draft that they were able to take. It's good that the Falcons were able to grab him. There's no one else at tight end for Matt Ryan to throw to, so Kyle Pitts is going to be that one. You can stack him with Calvin Ridley or even Russell Gage, and he's going to be able to get to those targets that aren't going to the wide receivers. Another one I'm looking at here is Ferkser. If you want to target the Arizona-Tennessee game, but you don't want to put a lot and you don't want to stack it with, A.J. Brown or Julio Jones, you can run it with Ferkser. We saw what he did last season with Jonnu out, and he is going to be the tight end one there. Ryan Tannehill does like to throw it to tight ends in the red zone. So, hopefully he gets some target share there. And at 3,200, it's not that terrible. Tyler Conklin, another one. Irv Smith is on IR. And I don't really trust Chris Herndon or any of the guys they have else at tight end. And we saw that Tyler Conklin can put up some decent stat lines here when he's able to play, most of the game. So, and then one last guy at tight end that I am looking at here is Freiermuth. If you've been reading some of the news, in the offseason, he was able to get some targets, past Eric Ebron. Obviously, Eric Ebron is going to be the tight end one, but Freiermuth, if he's able to play and get some snaps, he is a big 6'5" tight end. The red zone usage is going to be good for him. He's able to catch those balls, and he's in, at 2,500, if he's able to get you the 2 touchdowns, I mean, that's probably a long shot, but 2 to 3 targets and 1 touchdown is going to be fine for 2,500, especially if it allows you to pay up at running back and wide receiver. So, okay, and then some of the games I am targeting, obviously I've talked about it, some of the players. Philadelphia, Atlanta, going to be some great ones I'm looking at here. I wonder why it's not letting me see any of the players on here. However, oh, there we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, so some of the players I'm looking on here obviously is going to be Philadelphia, Atlanta, Mike Davis, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor. Any of these guys are going to be good to plug in. And then obviously Jalen Hurts and Matt Ryan, 2 QBs I'm going to be targeting some of my lineups. Another game I'm looking at here that I'm hopefully going to be stacking a lot of is Seattle, Indianapolis, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz. You can either go back between the two. I do like Russell Wilson more just because of his stat lines, and we know what he can do if he cooks. However, Carson Wentz is going up against Seattle, and we've seen what he can do as well. He's got an arm. He's an MVP for one of his Super Bowl seasons. So, if he's able to throw the ball to Pittman and pass the ball around to Pascal, he's going to be able to put up the stat lines. I don't really trust Jonathan Taylor or Chris Carson in these games. Not that I don't trust Jonathan Taylor in general. I do have him in my season long. But against Seattle with a decent run defense, I'd rather go with some of the wide receivers here. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Michael Pitman Jr., Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal. Any of these guys here are going to be good. You can also go with Jack Doyle, Molly Cox. It's kind of a toss-up between one of these two, whether one of them scores you a touchdown. But I don't know. I'd rather put in Michael Pittman Jr. at 4,100. He's going to be the wide receiver 1. So, and then Indianapolis defense, right? That's going to be a cheap 2,300. They have the Seahawks at 34. Makes no sense. I know they're the favorites for this game, but Seattle hasn't. I don't think they ever put up decent numbers, but the Colts do, and the Colts are very good at their defense, and Seattle likes to take sacks. So. Another one I'm going to be looking at here is obviously Arizona, Tennessee. Now, I know that the field is going to be heavy on it with Kyler Murray, but I don't know. You can put a Tannehill stack. You can run it with A.J. Brown or Julio Jones and then run it back with Hopkins or even A.J. Green. I was high on A.J. Green last season. Hopefully he can do something this season. Like I said, not really touching Derrick Henry or Chase Edmonds or James Conner. I'm hoping to, obviously get a lot of Derrick Henry during December, but right now it's September. So another one I'm going to be looking at a lot of is Pittsburgh and Buffalo. I am only putting in mostly like Gabe Davis and Freiermuth, but I do have some Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. Running back with the Deontay Johnson. But anybody else I don't really like to touch. I'm not going to put in Ben Roethlisberger. Don't really think he's the one to put up that many points for you. Clearly he's going to be able to get his touchdowns. But just the yardage, it's not going to be. He doesn't really pass that 300 mark very often. But Josh Allen can, and he does, and he probably will. Another one I'm looking at heavily is Cleveland KC. Not really much on the Cleveland side. I don't really have any Nick Chubb, or you could put in Kareem Hunt just for the pass catching. Maybe Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, even like Rashad Higgins as like a cheap play at 4,200. But I'm really going to be stacking it high on Tyreek Hill and also Travis Kelce here. You can maybe put in Austin Hooper, but with Njoku still at tight end. It's kind of a toss-up between the two, like whoever gets the red zone usage. So, and then the last one I'm going to look at here is Green Bay, New Orleans, only because of Alvin Kamara, and maybe even Jameis Winston and Marquez Callaway. I do have some MVS. Don't really have any Devontae Adams just because he's going to be guarded heavily by New Orleans. I'm assuming they're going to hopefully try and scheme to shut him down. So if you want to put in MVS or like Alan Lazard, you can. Maybe even go sneaky with Big Bob Robert Tonyan. But other than that, I don't really see anything for Green Bay, New Orleans. Some honorable mentions. I love Justin Herbert. I love Fitzpatrick. They do have some crazy good defenses, though, so maybe it won't be necessarily a shootout, but Ryan Fitzpatrick has some rushing upside, very little, as well as Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler, if he's out because he always gets injured, then Justin Jackson, that's his name. Justin Jackson is going to be good. We saw what he could do last season as well when Eckler was out. So if he is the number one running back to play, then he could be a nice cheap flyer. But Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Mike Williams, Curtis Samuel was put on IR. So I believe Diami Brown is going to be the number one, or the one to take over for Samuel. But I mean, if you wanted to run with like Cam Siggs or Adam Humphries, you can. And then obviously Logan Thomas. I love Logan Thomas. He's going to be able to get those target shares at tight end. We saw what he could do last season, and if Fitzpatrick is able to cook like he did last season, then he's going to fit right in and be able to get you those target shares for any of those guys. So, but yeah, that was week 1. I am going to be doing a lot more videos, hopefully starting this season. I did one video last season, but this season I'm going to be really putting in the work for some of these videos. If this seemed kind of sporadic and like I'm rambling, I apologize. I will try to condense it a little more starting out. That way it's not too long, and that way you guys actually want to stay and watch. But yeah, those are my picks. Those are the top guys I'm looking at. Those are some value plays for you. Hopefully win you some money. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.